Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. So today I am back with another video which is about the chapter Princess September from the English textbook class 8. So let's get started. This lesson is written by Somerset Maugham, which is slightly abridged. Princess September. The king and queen of Siam had many daughters. The queen found it confusing to remember so many names. So the king named them according to the months, and the youngest was called September. This shows us that the king and the queen had 9 daughters, as September is the 9th month. The king of Siam had a peculiar habit. He gave gifts on his birthday instead of receiving them. One year on his birthday, not having anything else handy, he gave each of his young daughters a green parrot in a golden cage. The princes were very proud of their parrots, and they spent an hour every day in teaching them to talk. Presently, all parrots could say only 2 things, but in no less than 7 Oriental languages. God save the king, pretty Polly, God save the king, and these are the other languages. But one day when Princess September went to say good morning to her parrot, she found it lying dead at the bottom of its golden cage. She burst into a flood of tears, and nothing that her maids of honor could say comforted her. She cried so much that the maids of honor, not knowing what to do, told the queen. She is beside herself with grief and refuses to eat. It is stuff and nonsense. The child had better go to bed without any supper. Supper means dinner. The queen didn't bother much. The maids of honor wanted to go to party, but Princess September to bed. So they put Princess September to bed as quickly as they could and left her herself. And while she lay in her bed crying still, even though she felt rather hungry, she saw a little bird hop into her room. She wiped her tear and sat up. Then the little bird began to sing. And he sang a beautiful song all about the lake in the king's garden, and the willow tree that looked at itself in the still water, and the goldfish that glided in and out of the branches that were reflected in it. When he finished, that was a very nice song. The princess wasn't crying anymore. She quite forgot that she had no supper. The little bird gave her a bow. Would you care to have me in place of your parrot? It's true that I am not so pretty to look at, but on the other hand, I have a much better voice. The princess clapped her hands with delight. And then the little bird hopped onto the end of her bed and sang her to sleep. Good morning. When she awoke, the bird was still there. She went through the palace and called on each of the princesses. And for each of them, the little bird sang a different song. The sisters were more jealous than happy, but Princess September ran through all the rooms of the palace, singing like a lark, while the birds flew around her singing like a nightingale. Things went on like this for several days, and then the 8 princesses put their heads together. They went to September. My poor September, we are sorry for the death of your beautiful parrot. It must be dreadful for you not to have a pet bird like we do. So we have all put our pocket money together to buy you a lovely green and yellow parrot. Thank you for nothing. I have a pet bird which sings the most charming songs to me. I don't know what on earth I should do with a green and yellow parrot. Well, dearie, it's absurd to talk of it as your bird when the little fellow flies in and out just as he likes. Do you mind our asking where your bird is now? He has gone to pay a visit to his father-in-law. And what makes you think he'll come back? He always does come back. Well, my dear, if you are lucky and he does come back, mind you, pop him into the cage. That's the only way you will be sure of him. But I like to have him fly about the room. They got up leaving and walked out of the room shaking their heads. If you will take our advice, you won't run any risk like that. Safety first, and they left September very uneasy. It seemed to Princess September that a little bird has been away a long time. Has he forgotten me? Has he taken fancy to someone else? Did hawks or snares get him? That would be dreadful. Suddenly, tweet tweet, he came in so quietly and alighted so softly that she didn't hear him. I wondered what on earth had become of you. I thought you had wondered that. The fact is, I nearly didn't come back tonight, but I thought you had been anxious. Under the circumstances, that was a very unfortunate remark for the little bird to make. September felt her heart go thump against her chest. She took hold of the bird, and the bird suspected nothing. And he was so surprised when she carried him over to the cage, popped him in and shut the door on him, that for a moment he could think of nothing to say. What's the joke? But in a moment or two, he hopped up to the ivory perch, looking more than a little worried. There's no joke, but some of Mama's cats are prowling about tonight, and I think you are much safer in there. Well, just for this once, I don't mind. So long as you let me out in the morning. He ate a very good supper and then began to sing, but in the middle of a song, he stopped. I don't know what the matter with me is, but I don't feel like singing tonight. Very well, go to sleep instead. So he put his head under his wing and in a minute was fall asleep. But when the dawn broke, she was awakened by the little bird calling her at the top of his voice. Wake up, let me out. I want to have a good fly. While the dew is still on the ground, let me out. You are much better off where you are. He tried to slip through the bars of the cage, but of course he couldn't. And he beat against the door, but of course he could open it. You were very wise to take our advice. He would soon get used to the cage, and in a few days would quite forgot he had ever been free. I have put him in the cage because I am so fond of him. Don't be such an old silly. I know what's good for you. Much better than you do yourself. Sing me a little song, and I will give you a piece of sugar. What's the good of sulking? Why don't you sing and forget your troubles? I'll take you out every day. How can I sing? I want to see the trees on the lake and the green rice growing in the fields. It's not the same thing. The rice fields in the lake and the willow trees look quite different when you see them through the bars of the cage. Bird wouldn't sing a song, and he wouldn't eat a thing. The princess was little anxious at this and asked her sister what they thought about it. You must be firm, but if he won't eat, he will die. That would be very ungrateful of him. He must know that you are only thinking of his own good. If he is obstinate and dies, it will serve him right and you will be rid of him. September didn't see how that was going to do her very much good. Perhaps he will have got used of his cage by tomorrow. But they were 8-1 and older than she, so she said nothing. And the next day when she woke, she cried out good morning in a cheerful voice. But she got no answer. She ran to the cage and gave a startled cry. And for there, the little bird lay at the bottom on his side with his eyes closed, and he looked as if he were dead. He opened the door and putting her hand in lifting him out, she gave a sob of relief, for she felt that his little heart was beating still. Thank heavens you are alive. Wake up, little bird. She began to cry and her tears fell on the little bird. He opened his eyes and saw that the bars of the cage were no longer around him. I can't sing unless I am free. And if I can't sing, I die. She threw open the window and gently placed the little bird on the sill. He shook himself a little. Then take your freedom. I shut you in the golden cage because I loved you and wanted to have you all by myself. But I never know it would kill you. I love you enough and let you be happy in your own way. come and go as you will, little bird. I will never put you in a cage anymore. I'll come because I love you, little princess, and I will sing you the loveliest song. I know I shall go far away, but I shall always come back and I shall never forget you. He gave himself another shake. Good gracious me, how stiff I am. Then he opened his wings and flew right away into the blue. But the little princess burst into tears, for it's very difficult to put the happiness of someone you love before your own. And with her little bird far out of sight, she felt all of a sudden very lonely. When her sisters knew what had happened, they mocked her. The little bird would never return. But he did at last, and yeah, he sat on September's shoulder and ate out of her hand, and sang her the beautiful song he had learned while flying up and down the fair places of the world. Her sisters never slept with their windows open, so they grew ugly and extremely disagreeable. And when the time came to marry them off, they were given away to the king's counselors with a pound of tea and a sesame cat. September kept her window open day and night so that the little bird might come into her room whenever he felt inclined, and this was very good to her, so she grew extremely beautiful. And when she was old enough, she got married to the king of Cambodia and was carried on a white elephant up all the way to the city in which the king lived. Thank you. Like my video, share it, and also subscribe to my channel. Press the bell icon for latest updates.